Tonight on the Invention Laboratory, the traditional product lifecycle, what it's looked like over the years, and how reselling has affected it in today's retail and e-commerce environment. Let's get started.
People are looking for fast scores. You know how many people here spent $800 on a course because it was going to happen fast?
Hey, it's Pat here, and in this video I want to share with you 10 lessons I've learned since inventing a physical product.
We're going to talk about perceived ownership. Steve, this is something that we talk about a lot. People that are kind of new to the game, they don't know what the heck we're talking about.
This means starting small without the risk of a big financial investment, but at the same time being ready to scale up big if the opportunity presents itself.
One of the things that really hurt Apple was after I left, John Sculley got a very serious disease. And that disease, I've seen other people get it too. It's the disease of thinking that a really great idea is 90% of the work.
Obsession is the thing that makes heroes.
You know, I've been a creative professional for 15 years now, but I'm no professional packaging designer.
Most people only pay attention to the final product of a successful entrepreneur. They say things like, I can never be like them.
And the problem with that is that there's just a tremendous amount of craftsmanship in between a great idea and a great product.
The Invention Laboratory is a show that takes a deep dive into product development, inventions, and entrepreneurship. After spending over a decade in the industry, it's time to pass on that knowledge to anyone who's ever dreamed of bringing a product to life. For years, products have followed the same pattern: introduction, growth, maturity, and then eventually decline. The only variable was how long a product would remain in each stage. For some products, the product life cycle could be months, and for others, it could stay on the market for years. The factors that affected the cycle would vary from popular trends to even brand loyalty. Now, reselling has added a layer that can not only extend the product life, but it also can reinvigorate nostalgic brands and even lead the way for product enhancement in the future. Now, in order to understand the traditional product life cycle, we need to do a little econ lesson here. Let's go over each of these individual stages of a traditional product life cycle so you can understand how reselling has affected these areas, how it benefits and sometimes even detracts from a traditional method of pursuing a product and getting it ready for market. Now, in the traditional product life cycle, the introduction phase is the first phase of any new product. Now, this phase is when you pull back the curtain on not only the product, but how it can benefit the end user. Initial advertising is geared more toward the problem that the product solves than it is the actual product itself. Now, this is the initial attention grab. It's the equivalent of somebody in the street jumping and shouting at customers saying, hey, over here, whoa, stop, I need to tell you about something. And understand this also applies to new service offerings. Now, once a company makes adequate publicity about the product, either through promotion or through branding, it can start to look at other aspects such as pricing or distribution. Pricing a product in the introduction stage is extremely important to gain market share. A popular pricing strategy followed by most companies is the skimming price strategy. In that pricing strategy, a company usually charges a very high price to its customers who are willing to purchase the product. Price skimming is common, especially when a new mobile phone is launched or released into the marketplace with new and improved features. Companies with established brand names make sure that the new product has some features which stand out and they're unique as well. The owner will actually take pride in owning that particular phone. A couple examples would be a larger display, fingerprint tech, or even a better camera. Phase 2 of the traditional product life cycle is growth. And for many manufacturers, this is the key stage for establishing the product's position in the market, increasing sales and also improving profit margins. This is usually achieved by continued development of consumer demand through the use of marketing, promotional activity, combined with the reduction of manufacturing cost. How quickly a product moves from the introduction stage to the growth stage and how rapidly the sales increase can vary a lot from market to market. Now, there are a few challenges with the growth stage, and they usually revolve around increasing competition, prices, and marketing. When a company is first to introduce a product, they usually have the benefit of there being little to no competition. However, as the demand for their product starts to increase and the company moves into the growth phase of the product lifecycle, they're likely to face an increase in competition as manufacturers look to benefit from that new and developing market. As far as price goes, companies often charge early adopters a premium price for the new product in the introduction stage. However, as competition increases, manufacturers have to lower the price to remain competitive during that growth phase. Marketing campaigns during the introduction stage tend to benefit from all the buzz and hype that surrounds the launch of a new product. But once the product becomes established and it's no longer new, a more sophisticated marketing approach is likely to be needed in order to make the most of the growth potential. That being said, there are benefits to the growth phase as well. Costs are going to decrease, consumer awareness is heightened at this point, and the profits will also go up during this phase. Now that we have a better understanding of the introduction and growth phase, let's talk a little bit about maturity. This stage of the product life cycle is typically the longest stage of the product life cycle. In this stage, sales growth begins to decline. The company reaches its highest point as far as the demand cycle is concerned, and advertising strategies have minimal impact on the actual sales growth. In other words, people know all about this product at this point. Customers, friends, and family have purchased the item or service, and the demand is still high, but the draw to your product is now in the interest of gift giving. People buy this product for those who have yet to experience the benefits of the product. Finally, to end this product economics lesson, the decline stage. Decline is exactly what it sounds like. It's the fall or descent of the product in the product life cycle. This is simply when the product dies, or it shows decreased or negative growth. Now that you've got a better understanding of the traditional product life cycle, we can discuss how the reselling or tertiary market affects the product life cycle. During the introductory phase, if advertising, brand loyalty, and hype is implemented correctly, resellers or wholesale companies can have a positive and or negative effect on a product launch. They'll purchase thousands of units in an attempt to create a false positive. Now, in this scenario, what happens here is large quantities are purchased and they're hoarded in order to eliminate the supply to the market. In turn, they're free to set the price in the tertiary market. Over the last few years, classic video game systems were released by Nintendo and Sony. The retail on those items were between $65 and $80. The price on Amazon and eBay for the next 3 months hovered somewhere around $200 to $300. To make things even more interesting, this occurred during the holidays, so not only were the products in high demand to begin with, but people were really desperate to get the item secured for December 25th. As a result, Nintendo was forced to ramp up production, and most of their initial profit had to be filtered back into production. That is a negative, but brand awareness was now at an all-time high. Their next 2 production runs sold out in less than 72 hours. In addition, Nintendo and PlayStation's OEM systems from years ago skyrocketed in price due to the nostalgic and decreased supply of the recent release. A lot of kids got the original Nintendo Entertainment System for Christmas that year. Knowing that I didn't want to participate in the race to the bottom and tie up thousands of dollars with those production runs, I chose to focus on the original systems. That holiday season, I bought and sold 115 OEM NES systems, 725 cartridges of just the video games themselves. As a reseller, I was able to use nostalgia and collectability to my benefit. Most people with children are parents that have discretionary income when it comes to their kids, and they grew up with these systems when they were initially released. At that point, you're no longer selling products, you're selling memories. Every interaction I had with customers came with a story. I remember when I got this game years ago, my dad and I would sit down and play for hours. The stories were incredible. There was an emotional attachment to the items, whether they were coming into the inventory or they were heading out. And we were always in the positive end of those interactions. We were either providing extra cash around the holidays to people who needed it by selling their old systems, or I was handing a present to a parent that knew the excitement that would follow as their children opened the gift under the tree. Let's not mistake the fact that a lot of those folks were buying them for themselves or for a significant other. If there was anything close to a universal present that year, that was it. Buying and selling memories was an incredible thing. Over the next 2 years, accompanied with the release of the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo saw record sales across the entire platform. Everything from the newest game being released to pieces and parts or a 72-pin connector so that people could get their old Nintendo Entertainment System to work that's been in the attic for a few years. That is a happy story, but understand that false positives during the intro stage can also have the opposite effect. Remember hoverboards? Incredible demand, lots of money changing hands there until the lithium-ion batteries started to explode and catch fire. They simply couldn't pull that much product, and by the time they fixed it, there were so many cheaper knockoffs on the market that they lost their audience. Resellers are also responsible for some of the greatest brand reignition stories. The decline of those products has already occurred, no one's buying them anymore. The brand Champion is a really great example. Vintage clothing and accessory sales boost the nostalgia market, and all it takes is a major platform to show recognition. The most recent season of Stranger Things on Netflix was a product placement vomit fest. Late 80s, early 90s apparel skyrocketed, and some manufacturers even issued re-releases with limited quantities, and they cashed in as well. Quality, nostalgia, and collectability. How many of you remember Grandma's big cast iron pan? Perfectly seasoned, even cooking temperature, and a whole lot of love. It's true that they still make cast iron, but not like they used to. The quality isn't even close. Wagner, Griswold, Vollrith. Names that are trusted and irreplaceable. There are only a few places that you can get these things these days, and it's not at a store. Garage sales, eBay, flea markets, Amazon, Facebook Marketplace, estate sales. Antique collectors and dealers have actually structured million-dollar businesses around the category of cast iron alone. These products made 50 to 100 years ago have certainly extended their life cycle. Discontinued products have a market of their own, and the manufacturers no longer support them, but the demand allows resellers to fill that void. So creators, I ask you, while you're discerning whether or not to become an inventor of something new and novel, consider reviving a market that has already had the groundwork laid for you. Products have been produced, distributed, advertised, and buried. You have the ability to reinvigorate the product lifecycle. If it's a business that you want to run, here it is. If it's a brand that you want people to believe in, companies have spent millions of dollars so you don't have to ensure that that's already the case. If you want to have your name on something, put it on your business license, put it on the sign over the door, put it on your business card. But sometimes there isn't a need to recreate the wheel. Sometimes you just need to polish it and seek out the people who need it. If your desire was to affect lives or change the world, I'll leave you with this. Every time that I go sourcing, I get the opportunity to see value where others hadn't. I rummage through bits and pieces of people's lives. These items were once important enough to be a part of their family, just like the toaster, the TV, or your little brother. As a reseller, you have the rare opportunity to provide these items to a new owner. The best part about this exchange is that the new recipient is going to see the product in all of its imperfections, its scratches, dings, and dents, and they're still willing to part with their hard-earned money to make it a part of their lives. The journey that a product goes through is an incredible story. It touches multiple lives until it reaches its final destination for its owner, and then it's donated or tossed aside, allowing the cycle to start all over again. So follow this logic with me. It's Friday afternoon, and I go into a thrift store to purchase a video game. I'm using a video game as an example because it's what started my business. I went from selling these games as a hobby, and then it started to pay my mortgage. Realizing there was value there, I continued on. So I walk into a thrift store to purchase a video game on a Friday afternoon. I bring it home because I see value in it. I clean it, I care for it, and I prepare to sell it to someone who needs or wants it. I then list the product on Amazon. In that process of sending that product into Amazon's fulfillment center for Amazon FBA, I guarantee job security for myself, the retail UPS worker, the truck driver, the stock associate at the Amazon warehouse, the warehouse manager who maintains the employees' records, and the technicians who ensure that those sorting machines stay operational to check in my inventory, the stock associate that picks and packs the game after it's been purchased, the associate that loads that game onto a truck, the truck driver that takes that load to the airport, the laborer that loads the plane for the overnight packages due to my customers having Prime shipments and a Prime membership, the pilot that flies the cargo to the item's destination, the laborer that unloads the plane and places the item on a delivery truck, the Amazon driver that delivers the item from the back of their car to ensure the delivery time is met. After the game reaches its destination, the owner brings it into their home. The game is a gift for a 10-year-old child. They've never played a Nintendo game in their life. They're now reliving the experiences of their parents that are reminiscent of the day that they received it in 1985. The child sees value not in the game, but in spending time with their parents because they work so much. Over the next year, the child is bored with the game, but they've managed to teach mom and dad to play Xbox. They don't want to just throw away the memories, so they donate the NES game and the system to the thrift store, and the cycle starts over again. Thank you so much for listening this week. Be sure to send me your questions on Facebook so I can use them in future episodes of Frequently Asked Questions on the Invention Laboratory. Remember, as always, the choices you make dictate the life you lead.